tell you a series of stories, and the connection might not be obvious at first glance, but if you pay attention, the pieces will begin to fall into place. I qualified to the Olympics for Haiti in what's called the universality spot. It's allocated just before the games to athletes playing for underrepresented countries. The Haitian Olympic Committee reached out to me to see if I had any interest in competing in an upcoming series of qualifications in hopes of qualifying to the Paris Games. Oblivious to what I had actually agreed to, I said yes and resumed my training in April of 2023. I continued to train for 8 months following these qualifications without any idea of how to influence the selection process. At the same time, I juggled a full-time job as an assistant coach here at Penn State. This required near weekly travel on top of my training. It was also one of the toughest challenges of self-discipline I had ever experienced. Most 25-year-olds are settling into adult life, and some even start a family, but in my reality, I had to find the will to pursue training at such a high level for potentially no reward. Once I began to train again, I realized that I had gotten a notification on my phone that had lots and lots of calls and text messages. I wondered, surely they would have told me that I was officially granted a spot to compete at the Olympic Games. So I went to the most accurate news source that I knew at the time, and it also happened to be social media. Once I got to social media, I saw a post that stated that I did not deserve the spot because I was not Haitian and that I did not earn the spot and I stole it from more deserving athletes. That was put much nicer than it was actually written. So at this time, when I resumed my training, I wondered my true motivations for continuing on this path when giving up would be so much easier. Upon reading these posts, I had a self-destructive need to know what people were saying about me, and that drove me to tears more than once. People questioned not just who I am, but where I come from, and my motivations for representing a country I didn't even live in. But little did these posters know that I sought to discover who I am and my Haitian culture through this journey that began as a hope and a dream. Most people don't know this about me, but I wasn't raised with my dad's side of the family, which is where I get my Haitian nationality. I didn't get to discover a whole half of who I am, and the dissonance that existed between my upbringing and proudly representing Haiti was something that was magnified by the posts that I read. In the pandemic in 2020, I had a lot of time to think, as did many people. And as I was thinking, I realized that my mom always taught me to put my best foot forward, and for the last few years, I had been doing the exact opposite. I was wishing each day away as if I was offline, and I did nothing to influence the pattern I had fallen into. My wake-up call came in the form of not one, but 2 Achilles tendon ruptures on live TV. The response was loud from strangers that showed me more care and concern than I even lent to myself. So during this time in isolation, I realized that I was not an athlete that had a very high level of emotional intelligence. In fact, I had teammates describe walking in eggshells when I was around, and I had a coach at the time tell me, "Lynnzee, your bad attitude is affecting other people. You cannot be injured and have a bad attitude." And I'll be honest. I was angry he had said that to me, which proved his point. So during this time, when I was recovering from my injury and I was in isolation, I decided that I wanted to be different, that this is not who I really am and who my mom taught me to be. I thought without physically doing gymnastics, I had lost another pillar of my identity. I had to reevaluate what success looked like for me, given the cards that I was dealt. "2019 started off as what I thought was going to be my year. School was getting easier, gymnastics was going fantastic, and I even enjoyed my teammates that began to be my friends. I would soon find out that 2019 would be a year that I would try to forget. In April of that year, my team reached the Final Four, which was a program record, and I became just the second national champion in school history. Following this competition, a massive post-meet celebration with fans, family, and alumni followed. But the most important attendee to me was my mom. At the celebration, she was so proud of me, and I could tell that all the sacrifices she made, I was finally proving that it was worth it. Most people don't like Mondays, and for some reason, this Monday in May just felt off, and I couldn't shake the feeling. Just 3 weeks after the national championship, I was training, and right before practice, I had some downtime to finish some homework. During this time, I got a call from my brother, and so I answered the phone, but it ended as soon as I said hello. I thought that was odd, so I decided I'd call him back when I had a little bit more time. 10 minutes go by, and I get another call from him, so I answer again. From the words that he said on the other line, my ears immediately began to ring, and my legs went limp. As I fell to the floor, the sound that I heard come out of my mouth was truly undescribable, yet it's a memory I'll never forget. On the other line, he told me that my mom had suddenly passed away. The hardest part was seeing people around me move on when I was stuck in this place where my world was forever changed. My mom was all I had known, and the thought of her not seeing any of my future accomplishments is something that I still battle to this day. I graduated high school in 2017, but I was recruited in 2014, and I was not a highly recruited athlete by any means. In fact, I was looked over by a majority of the schools. Thankfully, one university in particular was persistent with their interest in me. They wanted to let me know that they were interested in what I had to offer. At the time, this was a really scary process because I didn't think I was qualified athletically or academically to hold up to such big expectations. The term first generation now in my adult life has meaning, but at the time, I had no idea how to sort out the ill-preparedness I felt for the experience ahead. On my one and only visit to the University of Denver, they offered me a full athletic scholarship. 2 memories from this day stand out. One was my thinking, if they want to give me money to flunk out, then I guess I'll give it a try. And 2 was seeing my mom tear up in their practice facility. Today, I know that those were tears of relief. She knew what this opportunity meant for me. She knew that I would be okay and that I'd be taken care of. My mom always had this way of looking out for me in ways that I couldn't always see. Back in 2010, when I was around 5th grade, I believe, she had gotten pretty sick, requiring weeks in the hospital. And as a result, we had to make financial adjustments to get her the care she needed. Of course, the first to go was the cost of my gymnastics, and I understood about as much as a young kid could, but I was still pretty sad. A few weeks later, my coaches called and asked why I had stopped attending practice, and they were shocked to find out that we just couldn't afford it anymore. Oddly enough, a few days later, I was back in the gym training as if nothing had happened. In 2003, I sat at the end of my mom's bed watching the World Gymnastics Championships. One thing was clear through that staticky broadcast: I wanted to do that too. So for weeks, I flipped in the front yard, begging my mom to do real gymnastics, and her answer was always no. Just a few weeks later, I got a flyer in the mail that said free gymnastics trial. And with that little push, we agreed that I would do the free classes only, and then we'd be done. But apparently, I had other plans. In that first week of gymnastics, I met one of the older girls that I wanted to be just like when I grew up. To 4-year-old Lynnzee, she was one of the coolest teenagers I had ever met in my short life. Upon the end of the trial, The coach came to my mom and asked where I had learned all the skills that I was doing, and she was shocked to find out that I had taught myself without any formal training or equipment. I have to give my mom credit for seeing what sparked joy in me and her making the commitment to nurture that. Earlier, you might remember me asking myself why I stuck on the path to train for the Olympics when quitting would be so much easier. My mom always told me that I was not allowed to quit on a bad day, and I think she was onto something. Some of the toughest moments in my story are the ones that I now can identify as lessons that led me to continue to train for the Olympics with potentially no qualification in sight. Unknowingly, following in what my mom instilled in me, even in death, I came out on the other side living a dream that I had dreamt of my entire life. Following more hardships and challenges than I ever could have imagined, I came out on the other side an Olympian. Gymnastics was something that my mom and I always did together, and my family sacrificed so much for me to do the sport that I loved because their love for me was greater than any time or money they could spend on themselves. During that time, when I had quit gymnastics in 5th grade, the coaches and my mom had a discussion where they agreed my family would clean the gym after practice and we'd pick up volunteer shifts after team fundraisers. And whatever we couldn't cover, they agreed to supplement the rest of my tuition until I graduated high school. My sophomore year is when I first remember being aware of this agreement. In reality, this agreement is the reason my gymnastics career continued. Without this, my career would have ended early and I would have changed the trajectory of my life entirely. Life is wildly poetic sometimes. Wouldn't you know it that the very teenager from my first week of gymnastics is now my boss and the woman who brought me to Penn State to be speaking with you today. I still coach gymnastics at Penn State, teaching, training, and trying my best to share the knowledge I've learned over my career. But one thing sticks out to me. I know that the present door that I'm at will always inevitably transition to the next that I had no idea was there. The will to continue despite the roadblocks is never the easy choice because you don't know what's ahead. But herein lies the art of oblivion. Our story will continue to unfold whether we want it to or not. Our choices are also uncertain, but through that uncertainty, we'll be guided to places that we never thought we'd go. Thank you.